Okay, that turns us towards Miceal Hurley, and who would probably be best known, well, we'll say in this part of the world at any rate, for as being the owner of Fantastic Flavours, wonderful ice cream parlour, if I may use that term, in North Main Street, 74 North Main Street, I believe it is as well, to be more precise. All sorts of ice cream in there. But he's also a man of culture, shall we say. And on Friday next, in tandem with Culture Night, National Culture Night across the island, Michael will be hosting a poetry reading night. Isn't that right, Michael?
It is. Luckily, Eamon O'Brien down at Gallery 126 roped me into sponsoring a poetry
Eamon's
cafe.
very good at roping people, isn't he?
Well, you know,
in a previous life he'd been a cowboy roping steers out in the wild plains.
It helps that I'm incredibly gullible when I said yes to him without thinking it through.
All right, you've no regrets yet anyway, have you?
Well, listen, first thing I want to do is give you a coffee mug because we're having...
Fantastic Flavours coffee mug. Yes.
That's right. We're having a poetry cafe, so not only will people be able to show up this Friday at 7 p.m. to hear some great spoken word, some great poetry, both in English and Irish.
Okay.
Some well-published poets and a character named, that'd be you, Christy.
Oh, it must be me.
And
between neither Irish and English, yeah.
Yeah, but there'll be coffee there. There, of course, our artisan ice cream and free coffee and desserts.
It's a small venue.
It's a small venue
tidy.
Because I want poetry to be intimate. It should be something accessible to all of us. It's not something for people who went to Trinity or Harvard or the hoi polloi.
Yeah.
Should be able to access poetry too. It's about the human condition. It's about all of us.
Okay, there's several questions I could ask you in tangent from what you've just said there. But what is your affiliation with poetry in the first place? I mean, what brings you to it and what brings it to you?
Well, I've written several books. My first book was so successful, my mother's garage is full of it.
Okay. No, this wasn't a poetry book.
No, it wasn't on poetry. But one of the things I prepared for while writing was you have to read a volume of other work before you start to write yourself.
Sure.
And I began to read more and more poetry because it informed the work I was doing. And I got in contact with some great poets in New York, and a lot of them through the Irish American Cultural Center.
Right.
And I found it truly interesting. I mean, I know nothing about poetry.
All right.
But I know I like it.
Now, when we say poetry, in some manner it means we could be just talking about, you could say sport, for example, and then you've got all different tangents and different types of sports, and in your parlance, perhaps many different flavours. Now, there's many different flavours of poetry.
Fantastic flavours of poetry.
Fantastic flavours of poetry. Now, I think poetry, perhaps, and I might be wrong in this, unfortunately, people's common perception of poetry dates back to their school days when they were taught the classics, shall we say, Yeats and Shelley, etc., and Chaucer even, and all that kind of stuff. And once they leave school, like many of the topics that they encounter in the classroom, leave behind and run a miles from, But poetry is far more extensive than that, isn't it? There is different types of poetry. There's rap poetry, there's street poetry, there's slam poetry, there's rhyming poetry, there's non-rhyming poetry.
There's musical poetry. I think one of the things is that we've probably taught poetry badly, just like we've probably historically taught Irish badly.
Exactly.
So like you say, people just leave it behind them. They get turned off by it, reading the same old thing over and over again.